Rebecca, what is this video all about?
Well, as anyone who has a passing interest in the royals will know, Meghan has turned 40 this week, but not for her a glass of cheap, warm Prosecco with her mates, which I think is what I did. She wants to create a global movement, so very Meghan. And it's basically 40 at 40. She's encouraged 40 of her closest friends to give up 40 minutes of their time to mentor a woman who has lost their job as a result of the COVID pandemic and to try to help them get back into employment. And
who are some of the people involved in the programme that we know of?
It's a very, very starry roll call. We've got singer Adele, we've got Vogue's Edward Enninful, we've got designer Stella McCartney. It's a roll call of the rich and famous.
The video shows Meghan and her quote-unquote bestie, Melissa McCarthy. It's got some unusual elements to it, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. And this is where I think the video will prove slightly controversial. So it does show Meghan and, as you say, her bestie, Melissa McCarthy, doing a kind of comedy skit to a video call between them to publicise this initiative. But it really kind of parodies Britishness and Meghan's role in the royal family. Melissa McCarthy makes a great show about wearing a hat and drinking out of a cup of tea, and Meghan's drinking a cup of tea, I noticed as well, with no milk in, which, controversial on that front alone. So I think it's the parody of the Britishness and the royal family that will strike people as being slightly uncomfortable. And you also have a moment at the end where they have a kind of series of bloopers where you can see Harry trying to put Meghan off by juggling at the window. I mean, it's actually quite sweet and quite funny, but just makes him look a little bit like a kind of lame duck mucking around while his wife's going about this serious business. I'm sure some people will find it hilarious, but others, it may strike a slightly bum note with them.
Okay, well, let's bring in our studio guests now. Richard and Sarah, welcome to you both. I'm going to start with you, Sarah. What do you think?
Well, sometimes I wonder whether Meghan does anything without turning it into a sort of virtue signalling moment. I mean, she's turning 40. Can't she just have a glass of champagne and some mates around? Why does it have to be a sort of opportunity to showcase brand Sussex? Do you know what I mean? It's like, maybe, I think I am probably just, well, yes, obviously I am a cynic. I'm not sure quite how you help women by introducing them to a rich person who's going to talk to them for 40 minutes. I'm not quite, this whole initiative itself, I don't really understand it. But I think there was also just something so very sort of false about the whole thing. It just felt so constructed, and the interaction with Melissa McCartney, this sort of whole thing of Melissa being dressed as though she was going to the Queen's garden party. I thought the whole point about Meghan was she didn't like the royal family and didn't want to have anything to do with it and wanted to reclaim her existence in America, but yet you're trading off that association again, as always. I just felt it. Can this woman not do anything without turning it into an opportunity? I don't, to show how sort of, it's the virtue signalling that I find really hard to swallow.
Does that mirror your thoughts, Richard?
Well, I mean, what I find so interesting is they declared a few weeks ago that they were going to be having all this time off, sort of paternity leave, maternity leave after the birth of Lilibet. But we've had huge announcements. I think we've had 3 in the space of 4 weeks. We've had the new show for Netflix, we've had Harry's book, and now just a birthday, as Sarah says, is the cause of this big initiative to be launched.
Well, I guess, the devil's advocate in me would say, well, perhaps it's a really lovely thing to do, to sort of like to reach out and I suppose Meghan's fans would say, extend the platform to other people and use her 40th birthday to do that.
But the thing is, it just, for some reason, I don't know why, I can't quite put my finger on it, doesn't feel like that's what she's trying to do. For me, it feels like she's just trying to make herself look good for the purposes of expanding her brand.
I mean, they do like publicity, don't they?
I think maybe the Americans will think it's lovely and sweet, but I think the Brits, who are a bit more cynical and generally, I think, a bit fed up with the sort of trading on the royal connection, might think it's a bit opportunistic, and it just didn't come across as very authentic to me, genuinely. I mean, I felt that the whole setup was a bit sort of forced, and then this sort of bizarre thing with sort of Harry juggling some balls outside and then
juggling balls.
Over. I mean,
yeah. I mean, let's be fair though. I think it is a very good initiative. I mean, anything to help.
But is it?
But
well, I think
one of the participants is Princess Eugenie.
Yeah.
Now, 40 minutes in a conversation with Princess Eugenie, if you're unemployed or starting out in your career, what can be yielded from that? Would you guess?
Well, interestingly, it's not an original idea. I think it was something that was launched for Nelson Mandela's birthday, actually.
Oh, there's a 67th,
something
I think?
like that.
Yeah.
It was a project. So the idea of mentoring is very good, but I think clearly the 40 minutes would need to be the sort of start of a relationship where you're helping someone get back into the workforce. I mean, if it does that, then they're serving a good purpose. But as you say, if it is just kind of half an hour of rich person bringing up someone who's unemployed,
yeah, I mean,
I don't know if that could be
useful.
It
just sort of feels like a rich person sitting in their very nice house with all their lovely sandstone and their sort of super duper white flowers and their coordinated dog, slightly patronising the rest of us into making herself feel better. I mean, you have to, I think, when you do these kinds of things, you have to pick and choose quite carefully, and you have to come across as sincere. And the problem is that this whole sort of narrative that the Sussexes are trying to build of, we're all very caring, loving people, the way they've behaved over the last 6 to 12 months towards their own family has been the opposite of loving and caring. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think
they have shown that they are quite ruthless sort of manipulators of their image. So I think that's really why I don't buy it. It's show not tell. It's how you behave. Sorry.
And certainly this is all about helping women, but look at the women who've been closest to Meghan, and we talk about the Duchess of Cambridge, who was publicly attacked in the most prominent way in the Oprah interview.
And couldn't defend herself.
By Meghan, and couldn't defend herself at all. Well, that's really not very sisterly, I don't think.
And there are all these allegations of bullying from staff against Meghan, which we still haven't really got to the bottom of. So there's stuff hanging over, I think, them that just means that this doesn't quite chime for me.
Although the Duchess of Cambridge via Instagram did wish her a very happy birthday along
of course, why
with
wouldn't
Prince
you?
William.
Yes.
I mean, what did you make of that?
Yeah, it's been interesting, the birthdays. I think I wouldn't put too much store on that, really. I think they are sort of observing the formalities. They're. I'd be very interested to know what happens behind the scenes. Are they, bringing them up to wish her a happy birthday or not? We haven't heard any.
Are you a betting man?
I'm
thinking
that.
not.
Possibly not. So it's very easy to post a tweet or whatever, isn't it?
I just want to get back to Harry's balls for a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you make of that little scene?
Well,
that accidental.
Well, again, it's this whole sort of oh, we're just fun, normal people having a fun, normal time in our £11 million mansion. Blah blah blah. It's what he did with James Corden on the bus. It's this sort of trying to project this image of kind of sort of jovial normality, and it just doesn't stick with me.
I think it's interesting. It's always Harry, because I mentioned on this programme before how we seem to have this sort of developing narrative of sort of good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
And so we
sensible one, silly one.
We have Meghan makes the Netflix programme, the feminist programme that's going to help women. Now she's helping women again with this initiative. Oh, Harry, he's the one who, bitches about his family in a book, and then is there being the clown, literally juggling outside the window.
Literally being a court jester outside the window.
It's really hard to juggle. I just want to say that.
Yeah,
it's really hard, but we shall move on. That's all we have for you on our YouTube show. But to see the rest of this episode, including some more fascinating royal revelations, head to www.mailplus.co.uk/royals or click the link on screen now.